In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest trade speculation around the Montreal Canadiens, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the New York Rangers. Plus, we have another NHL veteran who's retired, and several NHL veterans have signed professional tryout agreements who have been unable to secure 1 or 2 year deals going into the coming season. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to take a look at here today. First up, we do have another retirement, and a longtime NHL veteran, Matthew Perreault, who most recently played for the Montreal Canadiens in a brief 1 year stint. Before that, played a long time with the Winnipeg Jets, Washington Capitals. Has announced his retirement from the game. I believe he played 13 seasons in total. Wasn't really sure if he was going to continue or not. I knew he would likely, based on how things went last year for the team and for him personally, that he likely wouldn't be returning to the Montreal Canadiens organization, but he has indeed announced his official retirement. So he's no longer going to be playing, so certainly want to wish him the best and whatever comes next for you, Matthew Perreault. We did get some injury updates as well, including Jonathan Bernier in New Jersey. It's been confirmed now that he's definitely not going to be ready to start the season, and it could be some time before he is available and ready. No real clear timeline exactly when that is. Obviously, the Devils are not too concerned about that, given the fact that they have Mackenzie Blackwood and they also acquired Vitek Vanacek. So that certainly, squares away their goaltending situation. But obviously, to have a third veteran person in the mix there would be nice, and hopefully he can make the return. But I know, based on the type of injuries he's been dealing with, it's going to be tricky, and I do wonder how much of an impact it will have on the remaining time that he might have left in his NHL career. Now, as I mentioned, we have several PTOs announced here today. Some for some quality veterans that I'm honestly surprised were not able to get a secured contract. Now they have to go to camp on a PTO and try to earn it. But one example, the Vancouver Canucks are bringing in right shot defenseman Danny Dekeyer. So of course we know the Vancouver Canucks have been considering bringing in another defenseman. Dekeyer's agent recently made comments saying he was pretty confident he'd be able to secure a 1 year deal. That there were several teams that they were talking to. Of course, that's not materialized. Obviously, lots are probably offering PTOs, but I think Vancouver might be a good spot for him. That he would have probably a better shot to make the team than some places. But we'll see how that works out for Dekeyer and the Vancouver Canucks. Calvin de Haan, who had been rumored to maybe be one of the D-men that the Canucks were looking at, is going back to the Carolina Hurricanes on a PTO. Of course, when he had left the New York Islanders as a free agent back, I think it was 2018 or 19, he had signed with Carolina, I think it was a 4-year contract. And not far into that deal, he ended up getting traded to the Blackhawks. Now he's an unrestricted free agent, and Carolina's taking him back on a PTO. I think de Haan can still play. I don't think he's going to be able to play a big role, big minutes, but he is good defensively, at least he has been in the past, and can probably be another 6-7 guy on some teams. So we'll see if things work out for him in Carolina. The San Jose Sharks are bringing in defenseman Scott Harrington on a PTO as well. Another team, San Jose, that definitely has a few roster potential openings, some potential question marks that they want to address there. So having another veteran guy around in Harrington, for a potential contract signing could very well prove to be valuable. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are bringing in Zach Aston Reese. I'm really surprised Aston Reese has not been able to secure at least a 1 year contract somewhere. Of course, a longtime Pittsburgh Penguin, was traded to the Anaheim Ducks last year, finished the season out there. Wasn't, an offensive juggernaut by any means. He never has been, but he is a good bottom six player. You can skate, kill penalties. Obviously the Maple Leafs, I think, are going to have enough competition between him on a PTO and other guys that they have signed for their bottom six, that they might be able to have a little bit more of a younger, faster, more dynamic fourth line. I know the last couple of years they've had a mix mash of veteran guys, some of which not the greatest. Obviously we know Jason Spezza, he could play. I think Jason was pretty strong to the end, had his moments, but wasn't necessarily a strong everyday player. You got Wayne Simmons, who's still there and under contract. I do wonder how much this competition will affect him and his roster spot, ice time, etc. We'll see. I know there's some speculative information out there to suggest that he might end up getting put through waivers. You just never know. We'll see how training camp goes for Simmons, but obviously they have other younger players that can go along with Aston Reese, like the newly signed Nicolas Aube-Kubel. And then, of course, you've also got guys like Joey Anderson. They signed Adam Gaudette. So I'm shocked a guy like Gaudette got his 1-year deal, league minimum, but Aston Reese couldn't. Anyway, not exactly the same kind of player, but still both fairly, still young enough, good skaters, and able to maybe provide a different look. So we'll see how that impacts the Maple Leafs and what their decisions might be for a fourth line. Obviously, they have, for the most part, they've got, a lot of their spots higher in the lineup already basically spoken for. You've got guys like Yarncroke coming in, Kerfoot, etc. David Kampf, Engvall. Those will be comprised of your middle six, and it's really the fourth line, I think, that has the most question marks. So we'll see where that goes for some of these PTOs and how things work out. Now, on to some trade speculation for today. First of all, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are getting some calls where they do have a lot of NHL quality defensemen, counting young prospect Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who I think the Penguins would really like to get into the NHL this year. Given of how he's played in the minor leagues, I think it's fair to say that he's earned an opportunity. It also will allow them to have a younger player with a better contract to kind of offset some of these salary cap tightness that most teams are experiencing. So from a cap perspective, it's good for the development. Obviously, they do have a lot of older players, so to mix in a younger player like him, I think would be a good mix as well. So there's lots to like there. I think an opportunity has been earned and deserved, but obviously other defensemen are still getting interest from other teams, whether it be Brian Dumoulin's one, to some degree. I think Marcus Pettersson's another, but certainly reports that the Pittsburgh media suggest that Ron Hextall and Brian Burke do have some more decisions to make on the defense core of this roster, and it wouldn't be shocking if either before or during camp that we do see at least one defenseman moved out, because it's a bit crowded, and number two, they could use a bit of a cap flexibility, like a lot of teams could, of course. So we'll see what they end up doing, but Pittsburgh is certainly not a team that I expect to be completely done, and their roster's not completely set, although a lot of their spots are fairly spoken for. Another thing around the Penguins, apparently they did have a trade opportunity this offseason that they actually ended up rejecting. There's rumors out there that the Penguins had an offer to be able to move Jason Zucker. Now, of course, he's battled injury, has had flashes of that goal-scoring ability and that speed that obviously that they were interested in for quite a while before making the acquisition. There was rumors for like a year and a half before the Penguins actually acquired him from Minnesota that they were interested in this player and that they really liked what he brought to the table. His time in Pittsburgh is certainly not a complete bust, but certainly I think himself included would like to have thought that it would have worked out a little bit better and been able to stay healthier and be more productive. But overall, he does have some things he brings to the table. Quickness, the speed, ability to score. They're all important things. But obviously his contract right now is not the most favorable given how the last couple of years have gone. And the Penguins did have an opportunity to be able to dump that contract. And the rumor is that it was likely Anaheim that was willing to take that contract. But to do it, they wanted the Penguins to include a first-round pick. And that first-round pick is not something that Ron Hextall wanted to give up in order to make that move. Of course, he got 1 year left on his contract. It's over $5 million. As much as it'd be nice for them to probably gain a little flexibility, that's a big asking price for a 1 year contract. If it was 3 or 4 years and somebody wanted to take it on for you and you had to do that, okay, maybe that asking price isn't so steep and maybe you think it's a little bit more reasonable. Of course, the Penguins have never really been too concerned about first round picks, given that they've been in go for it mode and win now mode for quite some time during the Malkin, Crosby, Letang era here, which is a long stretch of consecutive years appearing in the NHL postseason. So we'll see what happens. But obviously, the first round pick is something that not always, but quite often, the Penguins end up trading at the deadline for a deadline acquisition to bolster their lineup. So that's obviously, if Hextall is going to move it, that's probably something he'd rather use it on than just dumping a contract. But that offer reportedly was there, and it's believed to be that it could have possibly been the Ducks, the team, to make that offer. Of course, it makes sense that they'd want an extra first-round pick for next year. And Pittsburgh, I think probably wisely, we could say, chose not to proceed. Now, of course, when it comes to the New York Rangers, a player that we're going to talk about actually a little bit in the next segment here too, but Arthur Staple, reporter for the Rangers, is reporting that the Rangers do have an offer on young defenseman Nils Lundqvist, who we've talked about a couple times now after it's been reported that he would like to be traded. He wants a fresh start, doesn't see a real clear path opportunity to be able to get NHL opportunity in minutes with the Rangers, given their deep blue line. And based on how things have gone, he looks like he's kind of the odd man out and is going to end up getting stuck playing in the minors should he remain in their organization. Well, obviously, it's believed that they do have an offer of a second-round pick on the table, but right now it looks like Chris Drury and company there in New York are going to be choosing to hold off and not accept that offer just yet and see if something better comes along. But it's believed as well that they would like to take care of this so it's not, impacting the player. The relationship doesn't get, too impacted, etc. before training camp. But at the same time, they're not just going to give him away either. But one of those teams that offer could be from, and it very well could be, is Montreal. I don't know for sure that that's the case, but there's been lots of speculation that the Habs are one of the teams that are quite keen on the young defenseman and would like to have an opportunity to make that acquisition. Of course, the VP there, Jeff Gordon, quite familiar with the player since he was the GM in New York, who was responsible for drafting him, along with fellow teammate and former first-rounder Vitaly Kravtsov, who we know has had a rocky relationship with the Rangers as well. There's been reports that the Habs are certainly intrigued and interested in maybe acquiring both those young players, and we'll see how things go from there. Obviously, having the inside scoop on them as people, players, what their strengths are, would be, a big thing for Gorton to be able to have that other teams wouldn't know about. So we'll see what happens. But the Habs are, I think, got their hands on a variety of things right now, including those young prospects. There's still speculation that they may look to bring in another goalie after they signed Cayden Primeau to a one-way deal, as we talked about in a video in the past day or two. There was certainly speculation from a lot of local fans, especially saying, well, Primeau's on a one-way deal. Are we trading Allen or Montembeault? And I don't think that's necessarily the case. There is rumors that they're looking to extend Jake Allen, and talks are progressing. We'll see if that gets done before training camp. Wouldn't be shocked if it did. I don't think it's going to be anything too complicated. They're probably going to offer him, I'm going to guess, 1 or 2 years. That's maybe similar money that he's making now. And I would suspect there's a good chance that'll work out for both sides to come to an agreement. And I would think there's a good chance that Allen and Primeau will be your goaltending tandem, most likely, in the next 2 to 3 years, but it may not happen immediately because Primeau is not yet requiring waivers to go to the minors, so they can put him in Laval without having any risk of losing him. Just because he's on a one-way deal doesn't mean he needs to go through waivers. It just means that he's going to get paid more money to be down there if indeed that's where he has to play. So if they want to start the year with all 3 goaltenders, it's certainly something that is possible that we could end up seeing. And like I said, Michael DiPietro in Vancouver is another goaltender that they have their eye on reportedly as well, that they might bring in to work with the Laval team since they are not overly deep in that position. They likely want to bring somebody in with some relevant experience here to play in that team in the AHL. So we'll see what happens, but Montreal certainly has their eye on a variety of things. And of course, Ken Hughes, like I said, he's going to be a busy man here. Besides looking at the goaltending situation, contract for Jake Allen, maybe possible trade for DiPietro, Rangers prospects that we know would be happy to be traded, that they have interest in. And on top of that, when he signed Kirby Dach and did a media availability afterwards, he kind of played some of his cards to the media and said that essentially they are indeed looking to move some bodies, that essentially they have too many forwards, and that not only from a salary cap perspective but from a roster construction perspective, that they need to move a player or two out, ideally before training camp starts or during camp. So look for Montreal to make at least 1 or 2 trades. I'm not sure who those players are going to be. There's been some talk that it could be a guy like Dvorak or Hoffman or Armia or any of those guys. I'm not sure that it would be a guy like Jonathan Drouin, for example. He's down to 1 year of his contract, but I don't think there's really much interest there given how much time he's missed lately. Drouin did announce a number change as well just today. He's changing back to number 27. So obviously that's something he's just looking for to kind of get a fresh start with his career and finish strong here during his contract. Of course, he's due a new contract, so he's got a lot of reasons to hopefully play well this year. Not only get his career back on track, but to hopefully get another decent payday coming up after the current season. So certainly look for the Montreal Canadiens to move at least 1, if not maybe even 2 forwards, given all the players they've acquired with Dach and Monahan and all these other guys that they have on their roster here. Of course, they want to give Slavkovsky some playing time. they have like 16 NHL quality forwards on the roster. They need to trim that down to about 13. So I would say that there's a good chance we're going to see a couple more Habs trades, and it could be players going in and out. There could be a very busy team to watch over the next couple of weeks. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.